It's all Saints in NXT as Ricky Saints is now the new NXT champion, as well as KELANI Jordan is the TNA knockout champion. What is going on? The revolution has begun. We're going to talk about it and more. This is WrstlXtra. Yo, this is a WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, joined by my trios team. This is how you know it's a big show. Mex is here. Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Yeah. And, of course, say his name, he shall appear, even after technical issues. It is the man, Gerard Bonner. Boys, what is going on? Mex, let me come to you real quick, first of all. You've not been here for a while. You make your appearance when there's definitely something to say. How are you feeling in general about the weekend's occurrences?
Yeah, NXT was very, very interesting. A lot happened there. Even All Out was really good from the previous week. So yeah, it's just good to see there's things happening within our community for our wrestlers on all levels, on all promotions. They're keeping themselves busy. We were saying in the group chat last night, like, I feel like the women have just stolen the show for this year. And I'm putting pressure on the men. I think the men have got to close the gap. They've got a lot of catching up to do in general. I know the competition is harder in general for men, but yeah, we still need them to step up to the plate and stuff. But the state of the game's is in good hands right now.
It is. Gerard, let's start with NXT No Mercy. Of course, the main event, FEMI, the ruler, against Ricky Saints. The revolution has finally begun. We were talking on the show the last time we were here 2 weeks ago, and we were saying, oh, there's no way Saints is winning unless it's through some kind of heel turn, some kind of madness. But it was a straight 1, 2, 3 from Saints. At any point, did you expect that to happen? Was that before the match, during the match? Did you expect to see the result that we did see?
It was hard to tell. There was the match earlier that involved Lola Vice fighting for the women's championship was a match that I thought for sure we're going to see the championship change hands. I mean, she kicked out of everything. Like, it was just really being painted that way. So when that didn't happen and we saw the same level of things happening with Ricky Starks, I figured that much like what happened with Ethan Page, perhaps his body would just give out and he wouldn't be able to get the 1, 2, 3. I was shocked. I did not know. And listen, I love Ricky Saints. Massive fan of Ricky Saints. Did not know that he would be the one to take out FEMI. I didn't know who it would be. I just wasn't fully convinced based off of just the program he finished with Ethan Page, the challenges that he had with Jasper Troy. It was just hard to think that, especially on the first time out, that he would beat FEMI. But congratulations to Ricky Saints. I think it's well earned and well deserved.
For sure. Mex, there was something you were saying just before we came on the air. You were talking about predictions and whatever else. Let the people know what you were saying.
Yeah, I pretty much would have assumed FEMI should retain here, the way he's been built up. Unlike Gerard, I haven't been very impressed with Ricky's run so far. I think I might have said this before here. I think he seems to me like he's not challenged. Like, I feel like Ricky Starks is someone that he needs to be in the fire sort of thing, and then he really comes to life. And I hope that's a situation now that he's leading the brand. He's got the title. We're really going to see Ricky Saints come to life. But yeah, I didn't think he would win either when he started setting up this match until they drew in the vignette. They drew for the childhood picture with him holding the Intercontinental title, and I said, okay, that's what we're doing. So yeah, I even on the night, I still thought I expect FEMI to win here, but I'm going to hedge my bets on my little prediction sheet that we have. I put Ricky Saints to get the win. He done it. A lot of people have talked about the finish, that it was maybe a bit quote unquote flat. It was a couple of DDTs. He never hit the Rochambeau or anything like that. I do think that there's possibly a missed opportunity just because they've built Obafemi to such a point. I do feel like a heel turn by Ricky Starks to get the win would have been great. I think it would have been great for Ricky because that's a character he's comfortable in, as well, and it would have made sense and almost protect Obafemi as well, sort of thing. But this being kind of clean, straight up, off the back of I guess a signature move in his DDT, it was a bit surprising. The crowds were surprised, but fair enough. Let's see what the future holds for Ricky Saints as NXT champion.
Here's a question. So you mentioned obviously the DDTs, the move that he's been using. I think it was like 3, maybe 4 he had to use in that finish. I also noticed obviously that's what he's been using when he went against Jasper Troy. When he beat him, it kind of felt flat in some way. I don't know why. Maybe the move, but we've not seen him use the Rochambeau. Is there any reason why?
You just can't pick these dudes up. That's it.
Right. Right.
It's like you said, it's only just for Troy, it's only Obafemi. He's used Rochambeau in NXT. It's not like he's not using it.
Yeah, of course.
He's been using it. It's just these particular 2 guys, he probably just can't pick them up. So he has to use the alternate finisher. But
I think at the same time, we've not, unless I've missed it, we've not seen an attempt to try it. Sometimes you see an attempt, you know what I mean? And this is why I'm feeling as though there is a reason why it's not being used. And not just because of these are bigger guys, because I've seen him pick up, not as big, but guys that you probably wouldn't expect Ricky to pick up, you know what I mean? And use the move. So is there anything more to it than just the size of the guys?
Personally, I don't think so. I think it's just their size. These guys are nearly 300 pounds, if not 300 pounds. I respect what you're saying in terms of I would like to see the attempt. I remember back in the day, like when Rey Mysterio was trying to trying and he failing because he can't So I think that would be appreciated, but I just think it's a size thing.
Gerard, with the clean win, do you think it does, affect Oba in terms of what maybe happens next? Is it a case of, he's lost and then we're not going to see him again? Like, what do you think is going to happen with Obafemi now?
It's hard to say. There's a part of me, though, that feels like he could get the Stephanie Vacour treatment, which is just let's go on and move on up, because he's very much in that space. He has done well over 200 days as NXT champion. He had the longest reign for an NXT North American champion. I mean, what else is there to do for Obafemi? And he's dominated all year this year. He dominated last year. I think he's more than proven that he's ready to make it to the main roster. And here's the cool part. There are not very many Obafemis on the main roster at all. So he gets the chance to really stand out and be a giant. And with Brock Lesnar being very much special attraction, I think we get a chance to see what Obafemi can really do.
Is it too early to say that if it was an immediate, move to the main roster, that Obafemi just comes in and dominates right away? Would it have to be a bit more of a climb to wherever it is, whether that be Intercontinental or US title or a World Championship? That might be too far. I don't know.
I mean, I think there's an open door already. There's a Sami Zayn doing an open challenge for the U.S. title that I think if you bring Obafemi in to answer it, Obafemi wins the U.S. title his first night out. I mean, we're already making a statement. You cannot have as dominant of a reign as this man has had in NXT and then come to the main roster and have to fight for 6 months before you get a championship opportunity. That just seems nuts. That seems nuts.
But is there a possibility? So we've seen a similar thing with Gunfire.
We lost him.
I couldn't tell if it was me or not.
Nah, I think it's him.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm back.
Okay.
Go on, speak.
I'm here. Am I here? Am I here? Am I here? Am I
Yeah, I
here?
think so.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I think. All right. Let's start again. So we've seen a similar thing we've gone through in the past, where we came in and dominated. Had the long Intercontinental Championship run, lost that, then won the World Championship. Questionable run with that. We haven't seen him now for a long time. Do you think that there's a possibility that a quick rise also means a quick fall, or when the fall happens, it's like you don't know what to do? Because we've had a very little time of Obafemi without a championship. So going to the main roster would be a very different scenario. Would it be worrying in that respect, or on that side of things, for Obafemi to go straight to the main roster and win a championship right away?
Here's what's tough to me about this. I mean, I'm thinking, obviously, there's what I call the Stephanie McCourt treatment or the Braun Breaker treatment, and then there is the Carmelo Hayes treatment. I feel like if you put Obafemi in a space where he's having to prove himself for a long period of time, we lend ourselves to something completely different that we don't need. We don't need him bunched with the New Day. We don't need him put together with the Street Profits. And I think if he hangs around in that space too long, they'll find a way to just put him in there. He is a proven star. Think about this. This guy became a champion literally, was it barely 7 days after winning the breakout tournament? I mean, like, he cashed it in. It was crazy. He's been a champion pretty much ever since. So it's clear that he's got the goods. He's been given long matches, short matches, triple threats, big guys, little guys. I mean, he can do it. Perhaps there's some time to adjust needed to whatever the main roster rhythm is, but I don't think it requires something that takes a long time before we look at Obafemi with gold around his waist.
Let's talk about the alternative scenario. Alternative scenario being he still stays in NXT for a while.
Mm-hmm.
If that does happen, and it's still a possibility, Mex, what do you think that would look like for Obafemi?
I think that's when you're in dangerous territory of cooling him down. We've got this little kind of safe haven between people that I think have overgrown NXT and there isn't space for them on main roster yet, and that's called TNA. And we saw them activate that with KELANI Jordan the other day as well. TNA obviously, Trick is obviously TNA world champion as well. I don't think Obafemi even needs to go to that halfway house, respectfully. I think he has shown all the tools to be on main roster. I think his extent of being in NXT now should maybe stretch as far as him being involved in this invasion stuff that's going to happen in the next week or two. I think from his current role, he should say, even as a former champion, I want to be the guy. He's the ruler. He's all of these things. He has to lead the NXT troops ultimately into TNA battle. And even then, I think he can have a really strong showing. And then maybe his final action is him versus 4 TNA guys, and they just beat him up, finish, win the elimination match, and that is him signing off the next time. That is what made us. I'd rather him, like, last NXT appearance is the 7th of October, and we see him on Royal Rumble or something like that next. And we see him answer something. I just don't think there is anything. Like, they kept entering the cycle in the Trick and on just because there is nothing else for him. No one else. they don't necessarily need another loss to Ricky. So let him go on to lead the retreat about TNA.
Is there a way where Obafemi still stays around in NXT, or is it just clean cut? He has to go to main roster.
Again, I think keeping him in NXT doesn't really do anything for him. I mean, maybe, to Mex's point, you keep him there for the invasion, which thankfully is next week, and then after that, there's nothing for him to accomplish at Halloween Havoc. Quite frankly, I think you do more damage to Obafemi if there's a rematch with Ricky Saints, because because think about this. Nobody's been able to really beat Oba twice, let alone once. So if Ricky Saints somehow wins twice, that's just not a good look for Oba. And I don't know that it makes it any more believable for Ricky Saints. So I think, to me, this I hate to make this comparison, but it's just like the JC Jane moment. JC Jane, nobody believed that JC Jane could beat Stephanie Vacour twice. So let's just let her have this win. Let's move the division behind her. Let's move Stephanie out of there. We can just say it was a one-off. You build this thing with her being the most beatable champion, all the things. Now, I don't think you have to build Ricky Saints as the most beatable champion. You can build this as a space that on that night he was the better man and let it be that. If we get to a point where he's trying to prove he's just the better man overall, it's going to be bad for everybody involved. Everybody involved. So let Oba go. I think there's plenty for him to do on Raw or SmackDown, but don't keep him, because I think that's a mistake. Honestly, I think they moved Braun Breaker too late. I think they moved Carmelo too late. They were guilty of holding these people, and part of the reason they held them was because they needed some male stars. My thought is, with this invasion with TNA, you don't need to hold on to as many male stars, because again, you've got people coming through the pipeline. I'm sure we'll get to JEVON Evans at some point. You got his rise. Tavion Heights just had a big match. The men's division is actually growing right now. So I think it's the right time to let Oba make his move.
And, we've said it on this show so many times, especially during Obafemi's reign, that because of his dominance, it felt as though, no one could beat him. How is it going to change? The men's division probably even took a hit because of it, or it magnified the state of the men's division in NXT more than ever. Do you think now this is a positive thing that Ricky Saints has the championship, and no disrespect to Ricky Saints, but more of a boost of what, the dominance of Obafemi? But now, does it feel as though the bridge, the gap has been bridged now in terms of competitors for the NXT championship now that Saints has the title?
I would say yes, because here's why. Oba was so dominant that the problem was who could match up with him. It was so bad that you could make the argument that's why Jasper Troy won LFG. Strictly to be able to match up with Obafemi. Okay. Now, granted, you go back to that season. I don't know that we make a case that anybody else was dominant, but for sure, it was clear. And they literally said, we're trying to figure out who's going to match up with Obafemi. Well, that was an easy one. And literally straight away, that's what they had him do. So I think now that you have a Ricky Saints in there, you open up the possibilities for who could become the NXT men's champion. I think JEVON Evans gets back on the horizon there. I think, honestly, everybody, Tavion Heights, Miles Bourne, there's a lot of names that might have barely had a chance against Obafemi that has a serious fighting chance against Ricky Saints. Because again, You look at Ethan Page, who beat Ricky Saints. Jasper Troy has a win over over Ricky Saints. It's more realistic to have a chance against somebody of, again, this is not a knock, of average size versus a juggernaut like an Obafemi. So yeah, I do think this has opened up the men's division for all kinds of possibilities in terms of who could fight for the NXT championship.
We're seeing the invasion. Gerard, you mentioned the whole possibility of TNA stars coming through. Mex, do you think that with the invasion happening next week, we know we're going to see some TNA guys coming in NXT tonight. Do you think that the Ricky's first opponent needs to be someone from TNA, or does it need to be someone from NXT, or does it matter where they come from?
I'm not sure it matters per se. I think that's the next issue now, to generate whoever this next person is going to be, because there are names for sure, like Gerard just mentioned some names, but it's just like, who is worthy, who's climbed to the point where they are a number one contender, unless they do something to obviously crown a number one contender. Right now, I can't really see any obvious candidates. If I'm completely honest, I didn't really think Ricky Saints himself was a deserving candidate when he arrived at Obafemi's door. It was just like, he's a big name, he's an experienced guy, and he called his shot. Fair enough. Okay, sometimes that's just how it works, but he didn't earn it per se. So, I think it'll be interesting. Trick Williams will probably still hover around there as a name. I think Javon Evans, it's kind of like a missed opportunity, because they had Undertaker do the whole, you have to go after the biggest dog in the yard. Javon Evans had his go at Obafemi, didn't work. He's almost beaten Josh Briggs, had that great showing on SmackDown, and you would have liked him to come around again and maybe get another opportunity at Obafemi. But now it's like, he will beat, maybe at some point he will beat the lesser man in Ricky Saints to maybe become champion or whatever. There's guys, and I'm sure there's guys on the TNA side as well that can come up against Ricky. But I more importantly, they need to keep Ricky challenged. They need to keep him with people that can ruffle his feathers, because that's when he's best, and he comes with his best material. I think he's been coasting right now in NXT. And that's no fault of his own. He's obviously much more experienced than the ladies and gentlemen in NXT. But yeah, I just think that number one contender, that first bout he has, whoever it's going to be with, has to be someone important. But I don't think it matters if it's from TNA or NXT.
We mentioned Javon Evans. Let's talk about Javon Evans. No Mercy was a very, very good show. Very entertaining, start to finish. Every match had its good parts. Of course, Javon Evans defeated Josh Briggs. Phenomenal match. I believe it was the opening match of the night as well.
Yes.
Phenomenal match for both guys. I think it showed. We know about Javon, but I think it showed us again how good Josh Briggs can be as well. But Gerard, we talked about this, I think, last time as well. This up and down of Javon Evans's time in NXT, fighting for championships, coming up short, disappears, has a match, fights for championship again, comes up short. I feel as though the opportunity was missed massively for it really should have been Evans to beat Obafemi. That was the only person who made any sense in terms of their trajectory, what they want to do with them, or what it feels like they want to do with Javon, and push him to heights. We know that, the dream match that we've all been waiting for is happening at Bound for Glory with Javon Evans versus Leon Slater for the X Division Championship. Let's not predict what's going to happen about that yet, but do you feel as though what is happening with Javon Evans Do you feel confused by it, or is it just the way things go sometimes?
It's a bit of a WWE-ism. It's just up and down, no real consistency. And we have to remember Javon Evans is one of these super special talents that they brought in from the independents, a guy that knows his way around the wrestling ring, knows his way around wrestling. They haven't had to teach him, they haven't had to hold him back. So it's almost now you put and they've done this a couple of times with a couple of people, you put an anchor on their foot, because if I just leave you to your own devices, they're going to be asking me to make you NXT champion tomorrow. So I need to hold you down ultimately. I said this to I said this about Stephanie Vaquer when she moved to main roster. Like, they don't understand the problem that they're unraveling with putting Stephanie Vaquer on the main roster. They cannot hold that woman down. She if they let her wrestle, she has to be champion in no time. You know, similar thing of what we're saying with Obafemi if he goes up. So this is what I feel they're doing with Javon Evans. They're using the whole, you know, he's young and this, all of that. But I'm sorry, age doesn't really have much to do with it. If you're good enough, you're young enough, and whatever, like you can go. At the very least, I think this is someone that should be in and around the North American title scene and kind of dominating there. I think we spoke previously around him having a Wesley-esque run with the North American Championship. He's had a terrific weekend. The match with Josh Briggs was great. On a side note, I don't know why people hate Josh Briggs. I think he's a great big man. I think he's
so amazing.
Good. Yeah, and I really love to see, like, when he was in Evolve, like original Evolve, like that's when I learned about him. Like, I think he's so good. But yeah, his appearance on SmackDown against Sami Zayn,
good
like,
good
this
lord,
is what I mean. Like,
lord,
he understood the assignment. Like, you're gonna give me this opportunity. And it's funny, people are saying, "Oh, that this was his SmackDown debut." They forgot he's been on SmackDown earlier this year. Like,
exactly. Team Ray Phoenix.
Yeah. Like, and even to be in that position, like, they know what they have. It's just like, but they're going through their paces, and you know, it's a difficult watch because you just know how good this person is. Like, he went toe to toe with Sami Zayn. He's been on SmackDown earlier this year. He went toe-to-toe with Randy Orton earlier this year. Like, they know what they have, but they're just playing it safe, holding him back. I wish there was some consistency, at least in seeing him on TV and in other storylines, if you're not going to put a championship on him. But I just think with his performances at this point, a championship, at the very least, a North American title, should be in his future.
I feel as though the issue isn't so the issue isn't so much holding him back and not putting a championship on him. I think the real issue is pushing him towards the main championship or the NXT championship, let's say, so quickly, so many times, and it not happening. Whereas if the holding back was a North American championship, he has a run with that, and he works his way up, I don't think we'd be having this conversation necessarily. I think because he's been so close to the top so many times, it's like, all right, so why are we doing this? What are we doing? So I think a run with the North American Championship is the answer to it. But at the same time, I'm now feeling as though he's probably almost too big for the North American Championship. But yet, because Ricky Saints has now just become NXT champion, you can't take it off him straight away. I mean, it's not impossible, but at the same time, it has to make sense. So it's going to be interesting.
It's back to that like opening up, like you said, when Obafemi was champion, though, it was just a hard no for everybody.
Yeah,
we're looking for who is the guy that can dethrone him, and we're not even really believing that Ricky Saints could have been that guy. But here we are. So now that Ricky Saints is the champion, he might hold it for some period, but it's a lot more believable in terms of who can face him and take that championship from him if the opportunity arose.
So, as I mentioned, we know we're getting the dream match between Evans and Slater. We've seen a different type of rise for both of them. We all know they're very similar in age. They're very similar even in experience, both of them starting off very, very young in the wrestling game, and are in the position that they're in. Both of them kind of broke out in terms of, being noticed on a world level maybe a year, 2 years ago. But we see Leon Slater now as the youngest ever X Division champion. JEVON Evans yet to win a singles championship, or win any championship so far. What do you think, Gerard, is the difference between the two? Is it the brands that they're in? Is it the experience? What do you think is the difference as to why their trajectories are a little bit different in terms of holding titles at the very least?
I do think environment matters. So, in TNA, a Leon Slater hits different because they're still looking to establish certain stars there. And when you start looking at the X Division, I mean, think about it. The man he beat was Moose for the X Division Championship. So the X Division Championship historically hasn't gone to guys the size of a Moose. I mean, perhaps the largest one you could say was Samoa Joe. Stylistically, Kurt Angle. But primarily, it's been the AJ Styles. It's been, the Christopher Daniels. It's been the Low Keys. It's been those high flyers who can do great things in that ultimate X match, So I think a scenario where you have Leon Slater ends up being a throwback to what the X Division was originally created for. Meanwhile, when you have over in NXT, there are really only 2 championships for a man to hold outside the tag team titles. And what's interesting is that high flying, acrobatic kind of scenario is not prevalent in NXT. So that means for JEVON Evans to become a champion, he ultimately needs somebody to dance with. And really, if you think about it, you took your 2 most acrobatic guys and put them in a tag team and called them Fraxium. So as fast as they were moving and as much, there was nobody who they were fighting that moved like they did. So again, on one hand, it's 2 different dynamics. TNA, you're trying to kind of right the wrong and get the X Division back in alignment with what you intend it to be. Leon Slater fits that. Meanwhile, there's not a specific fit for a JEVON Evans. JEVON Evans is a highlight reel, without question, who happens to be very, very popular. I hate making this comparison, but you'll get it. It's reminiscent of Jeff Hardy's singles run in WWE, where there wasn't anybody like him. He's not a Rey Mysterio, he's not a luchador. He's a guy who just does some really different things. He's very innovative. We like that. He needed an RVD, right? And when they got together, okay, we had some magic and we had some places for both of them to go. I think what's happening now is we're getting to see that JEVON Evans can now last with multiple styles. So they're not going to be able to pigeonhole him like an X Division champion. I mean, think about, and I don't know if we'll get into it, but if you think about the main event from this past weekend for that PLE, it was Myron Reed and Leon Slater. And what they did was a masterpiece. Incredible. But you likely wouldn't see a match like that in NXT. So that's just, it's the difference of environment, and the difference is in what they bring to the table. That's why I think Leon Slater had a quicker trajectory to a championship than JEVON Evans. With that said, it makes it very interesting what could happen at Bound for Glory, because Bound for Glory could be the space where we kill a couple of birds with one stone. We make JEVON Evans the X Division champion. You make some history there. But then you put him in the space of TNA, where now he gets to have those kinds of matches with the Rascals, with Myron Reed, with a litany of guys whose styles would just blow our mind. I mean, you could literally have a moment with him and Cedric Alexander, the 2 Carolina boys. getting together in a TNA ring, right? Like you've got some different possibilities that you can't quite make over in NXT. So that's why I think their trajectories have been different for a championship.
I was going to ask the question, but Gerard kind of answered it. So let me get your opinion on that then, Mix. Do you feel as though that is a good idea or a strong idea? We've seen it work out with Trick Williams in the sense where he's gone to TNA, and we've said it so many times. Him going over there helped in even just in terms of his in-ring work, going against more experienced guys, all that kind of thing. Do you feel as though the matching of styles for Javon Evans could play a part in him going to TNA, making him better in that respect? Or do you feel as though because of where he's been pushed so far in NXT and even in WWE, that might not be the answer?
I think it's definitely an option. If they see like the guys in NXT now just need more development in a WWE manner, and they trust Javon to go over there, he can maybe become an X Division champion, come back to NXT, carry the belt there, and back and forth a bit like Trick. I think it's more, like I said, they're kind of using TNA as this, like, right, you've graduated past NXT, we're just waiting for your spot to open up on the main roster. Or in Javon's case, it could be you're graduated past, where we're currently using you on NXT. When the chance to become NXT champion arrives, we'll bring you back in, sort of thing. I think it could be one of either of those. My only question around it all is this invasion. Like, is the invasion meaning that if TNA triumph, they eventually win back all their belts? Like, I want to see how the invasion angle and the winners of the 5-on-5 and how that's going to play out amongst the championships. Because to have an invasion show on the horizon, and then KELANI still goes over there and is stealing people's chains. To me, it's just like, what? Like, we're about to have this fight so that everyone can hopefully get their chain back and everything is returned and normal business is resumed. And KELANI is still picking up gold over. So I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out.
And this was going to be another question I was going to ask as well, because in this lead up, in this whole invasion, from when Trick won the TNA championship, when JC Jane won the knockouts, it's all been about their championships returning back to where it's supposed to be, and on TNA guys and girls. For me, it makes more sense, and it might go down this route. We know we're going to get this, Survivor Series style match. We know that much already. For me, it makes sense that one or two, possibly even all, of the championships on both sides are TNA versus NXT. For me, that makes sense. And at some point, it's either some TNA, get back the TNA championships. Mike Santana might get back his Come Bound for Glory, not so much at Invasion. But then, is there a possibility, and I don't think we've seen it yet, where a TNA star takes an NXT championship?
There is
and
a possibility.
And who does it and how?
The Hardy Boys.
Thank you. That's exactly what it is. At Invasion next week, the winner take all, the Hardys become the NXT champions. And here's what's tricky about this, though. Pun intended. What's tricky about this is the Hardys, though they are the current TNA tag team champions, are still very much viewed as WWE guys.
Right.
So, I mean, in theory, yes, it would be great. And quite frankly, I don't see a world where Hank and Tank. Oh no, it's Dark State. Sorry.
It's Dark State. Now.
That changes things though. I still had Hank and Tank in my mind. That changes things. I still think that the Hardys somehow could do it, but okay.
Hank and Tank can help them. Joe Hendry can help them. All of the people that are beefing with Dark State right now can come in and balance the books and help them. Yeah.
Yeah. But So I could see a world where the Hardys, again, I had Hank and Tank in my mind. If the Hardys don't, and this again is another tricky one, I think Joe Hendry becomes the guy and he wins the North American Championship from Ethan Page. Because what we have to acknowledge, and this is probably not the show for this, but we have to acknowledge that the Ethan Page North American Championship run has been forgettable. I literally have to remind myself, who is the North American champion? When he was the NXT champion, oh, we didn't forget that. It was a memorable kind of run. But this North American title run, please, ma'am, please, sir, somebody say his name, because I would much rather Joe Hendry, appear and become the NXT North American champion. That, to me, I think is a great way to start to tip the scales, though, again, there are rumors that, by the end of the year, he'll be NXT. But still, Joe Hendry, I think, is a right move for that. And maybe the Hardys do it next week. The Dark State thing completely left me. But, yeah, that's my thoughts.
I think the best part of Ethan Page's run was when Chelsea Green showed up.
Agreed. It's Chelsea, not him.
Yeah, now that you say it, like I was about to say no, like he's been good, but to be honest, when Chelsea showed up and they done the whole Canada stuff around it, that gimmick right there, that's main roster worthy. Go and enter Chelsea's cabinet of the United States stuff and make it a Canadian thing. I thought together they were all so good, but yeah, now she's not around. It has kind of pitted off a bit. You're right.
Here's what's interesting. Two things. We mentioned Joe Hendry possibly helping and beating Dark State, but there was something that Joe Hendry did. I think was it at No Mercy? Yeah, backstage at No Mercy, when he was kind of contemplating, do I, beat them or join them? That kind of set some questions in my mind as to what Joe Hendry's thinking or what he's going to do next. Onto the whole thing of someone from TNA winning a championship, and we're talking about Ethan Page and the North American, and this whole cabinet kind of, pride of Canada type of thing. My thought for someone beating Ethan Page is Mustafa Ali. Because I think with the whole, Order 4 and all of that as well, and I think for me, it's only right in terms of almost like a, what's the word? Circling back. A redemption type of thing. That's the word I was looking for. Is Mustafa Ali as the NXT North American champion. Because for me, and I've been saying this before you even left WWE, before you got moved back down to NXT, all the rest of it, for me, Mustafa Ali is one of those guys that was so underutilized, so underappreciated. He could easily in every single way be as big as Seth Rollins. In every single way. I think there's so many similarities, but hasn't happened, may never happen. That's an argument for another day. But for me, really? An Order 4. I
think, yeah, Mustafa Ali. When he was leaving NXT or WWE and stuff, I was behind him. I was like, all right, cool, let's go. Like, yes, they may not have booked you to how they should have, but at the same time, you've kicked and fussed. You have made a lot of noise. Not a lot of noise, not negatively, but like you believe you should be on X platform doing this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. And I would argue in TNA, he hasn't really done that. In TNA, like he's won a couple of stuff around their mid card and stuff, but he hasn't even been TNA world champion yet. So like, I don't feel, and if he comes and wins the North American title, I get that he goes with the gimmick, but that's got to be a backward step for him. That's got to be a backward step. Like
I would see it being on the same, because he hasn't won
where he thinks he should be. It's a
no, but it's not a backward step in where he should be, but it's a forward step in where he could go to. Because for me, like you said, he hasn't won the TNA World Championship. If he did that, then yes, it is a backward step. But because he hasn't actually achieved it yet, it's a step in the right direction in my eyes. This is why I'm saying that title definitely not the NXT Championship. I wouldn't put him in the NXT championship, even with Ricky Sainz as the champion. But I think the North American, and yes, it's a lot to do with the gimmick as well. But at the same time, because he beat Moose just the other day as well. I think it was at Victory Road. Yeah, Victory Road. I think that's a possibility or something in the near future if it doesn't happen at Invasion specifically. I think that's something that I think should happen.
He needs to unlock himself from the gimmick. I don't think the gimmick works. I don't think the gimmick has taken him to the next height. Maybe the gimmick is what's holding him back. I'm just I was in your camp. Yeah, I was in your cabinet. Like I wanted you to do well.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm voting for someone else next time. It's
to your point, I do think the gimmick is the issue because it worked when he was doing it during an election season, and I think things like that work best when they play off of what's happening outside of the wrestling world. In a space like this, it just doesn't hit the same. And even having Order 4 to a degree, I think has kind of diluted him. But I think it's that coupled with the fact that the gimmick itself doesn't work outside of an election season. And there's probably an argument to be made that with the tumultuous politics in the United States, it's probably best to stay away from all sorts of political gimmicks. I mean, it's the only way, and I'm jumping here, but the only way the political gimmick worked was by accident. And here's what I mean. El Grande Americano, right? Like political
Gulf
statement 100. Gulf of America, it was very, very clear. No one would have imagined that Chad Gable getting injured was the best thing that could have happened to that, because he goes over to AAA. They're not supposed to receive him, but they do. It's a completely separate thing, and it's got a life of its own, and it no longer feels like what it was originally created to be. So again, I think the political nature of the gimmick is what potentially is holding back Mustafa Ali. And he doesn't have to do that. He could still be evil and mean and nasty and great without having to wear that particular space, and he could still find success.
To all your points, you're correct in terms of the gimmick, because even with this whole thing of this faction war between Order 4 and the system, kind of feels like, what? How? Why are we trying to find dominance between the system and Order 4? That just feels weird to me. But at the same time, Mustafa Ali versus Moose makes sense. But Order 4 versus the system for dominance or whatever doesn't quite make it. And again, going back to the whole thing of political and the timing, and even down to Mustafa's ethnicity, we used to see, what was the guy's name? Oh my God, he was Italian, but he came out as was it Hassan?
Oh yeah, Muhammad Hassan. Yeah, that's
the one, and that went really south.
Horrible.
And I wouldn't want to see it, and I wouldn't want to see that happening to Mustafa Ali at all. But there's strong potential. And I was thinking about that when I was watching Victory Road as well the other day. I'm like, are we still doing this? And yet no one said anything, and there's no backlash, and I'm quite surprised it hasn't gone south already in that respect. But moving away from Mustafa Ali, going back a little bit to No Mercy, we saw the Women's Speed Championship, Soruka defending against Jada Parker. Jada Parker came in because Lainey Reed was injured. Yeah.
You guys are funny.
Yeah. And we had everything play out as it played out. We've seen Jada and Lash Legend go toe-to-toe often. Obviously, then Lash Legend gets involved. We're getting another match between the two ladies. Mex, what are you thinking with this rivalry between these two ladies? Does it make sense? Where's it going? And did it make sense for Jada to have that match against Soruka?
I think it was a great little impromptu match they had on the night. Jada just filling that position. Crowd favorite as well from Florida, kind of all made sense.
Yep.
I can't tell you for the life of me why Lash Legend and Jada Parker are fighting. I watch this show every single week, and I have no idea. I'm not saying I don't enjoy it. I just don't have any real idea as to why they're beefing, and as they are. But it's cool. It's good stuff. There's good promos. There's good exchanges between them. It looks real. It feels real. I think all those ladies are in a really strong position right now. I think we're in the beginnings of seeing, Zarya versus Sol Ruka and where that's gonna go. I don't like the way Zarya has kind of fallen into the background, but I understand not everyone can be in the foreground. She's played her position. I think there is someone there that we need to bring alive, and almost that's gonna alter Sol Ruka's character and presentation somewhat as well, which I think is interesting. I think Jada Parker just needs to keep getting those reps in and, entertaining the crowd, cutting fire promos and stuff like that. I think there is a really solid North American title run in the making for Jada Parker. We just need to kind of dot some I's, cross some T's, and get her where she needs to be. If there's anyone I'm worried about, it's Lash Legend. Because, again, I see a lot of potential. The top of this year, late last year, when we were really seeing her come into her own around the tag division stuff with Jakara Jackson, I just feel like she's becoming very cold since then. She's not not as prominently featured. I want more for Lash. I think Lash should be like right at the top of this division sort of thing. So that's the only person I want to really see have a better direction. Ever since they took away Meta 4, she's just been kind of frailing a bit, and just no real direction. But on the night, all these women done a really good piece of business. I think all the stuff on the outside was really fun, and good to see Sol Ruka carrying 2 titles, carrying them well.
And that's the other thing as well. I definitely wanted to mention Sol Ruka's doing a great job in holding her titles. I think we now need to have or someone else kind of be a real contender for the North American. What she did with the speed and what she's doing with the speed one is great. It's crazy. It's funny that Grande Americano is the men's speed champion, but yet we don't know what's happening with that title. But we'll get to that maybe at some point. Let's talk about KELANI. So KELANI Jordan. Actually, no. Let me go back a little bit. Ash by Elegance had to come out, relinquish her title. For I don't know if the reasons have come out. I'm not too sure. I haven't seen anything about it myself. But she relinquished her title, saying that she's not going to be able to wrestle again, or for a long period of time, lengthy period of time, maybe never. Relinquished the championship. We see an impromptu battle royal. I believe it's probably about 10, 12 ladies that were involved. The last 2 would then face each other to become the new Knockouts champion. KELANI was one of them. The other one being, I can't say her name properly. I'll never get it right.
Lei Ying Lee.
Thank you, mate. Thank you very much. I'm glad you did it and not me. So they face each other. And I can't lie. I did not expect KELANI to come out as the champion. I just thought because the Knockout Championship have just returned to TNA, that Ying Lee was going to be the one to win and carry things from there. Mex, what do you think happens now with KELANI and this Knockouts Championship? We know that she's facing Indy Hartwell at Bound for Glory for the championship. Is she just holding it until we get round to Indy Hartwell, or are we going to see a lengthy run from KELANI Jordan?
Like you said, man, I was very surprised to see this. Like when I saw it like on socials, I went back and I watched the match and stuff like that. And it makes sense. Like KELANI's such a good talent. Like she's such a really, really good talent. But yeah, to kind of have, again, in the midst of an invasion storyline, you've got an NXT person right here winning your title. This is the part that just kind of spins me. And it's like, I don't know where this all leads to. I would hate for Indy to just beat her now. like October, the Bound for Glory, like, because it's like, well, that doesn't make Kalani look very good. You might as well have just let your TNA person have it, let Ying Lee keep the belt, and then she can have a little program with Indy afterwards. But I think now they have to leave Kalani to go on a run. I think, again, this proves that, right, Kalani has graduated from NXT, and we're just kind of giving her other bits to do in the meantime. But yeah, massive talent. I just hope they book this in a way that doesn't leave Kalani looking lesser than.
It's a difficult one. You want to be happy. Kalani's doing her thing, as you said, Max. Great talent. The match was brilliant. For the championship, it was great. Indy getting involved as the special guest referee, whatnot. For me, it just would have made a little bit more sense, given the whole invasion thing, given the scenario, that there was some kind of longer lasting thing to where whoever wins maybe a tournament or a battle royal would face Indy Hartwell at Bound for Glory, and not this in between when there's only like about a week, 2 weeks until Bound for Glory. So for me, it's more likely that Kalani goes on a run, but I think it hurts this whole invasion thing. I think it kind of almost not downplays. Well, yeah, it downplays Ash by Elegance even getting that title back. So I'm not sure what the direction is to where it makes sense, or as to why it's happening. Gerard, what are your thoughts, and what do you think is next for Kalani? Is it seeing her in NXT with the championship, or are we going to see her a lot more in TNA with the championship?
I imagine it would be both. I imagine she will certainly show up to NXT. And it's interesting. I know you guys are kind of like this lessens or cheapens the invasion. I don't think it does. I think, if anything, it gives TNA even more to fight for, to be this close to this invasion moment. And now your male and your men's and women's world championships belong to NXT superstars. Right now, you only have 2 titles that don't belong to NXT superstars, but they are in jeopardy very soon, whether it's the tag titles next week or shortly thereafter, the X Division championship. So in terms of Kalani and what this means for her, I think it's a great step forward. If you remember, prior to this, she was in NXT trying to shed this, little sister situation. And now she gets to stand on her own. And I will say this, I would like to see NXT do a better job of acknowledging the world championship status of these TNA titles. To just call it the TNA Knockouts Championship, the TNA Championship, and not call it a world championship, I think is a disservice to those titles and to the significance of the people holding them. I mean, for a Kalani Jordan and for a Trick Williams, neither of whom have been in the business, 7 or 8 years, they're still fairly young, to become world champions in a brand that has a number of solidified veterans is very significant. And so for Kalani, I hope this means that we get to see her have a great run. Historically, TNA has had a great knockouts division. I think everybody would make the assertion that NXT is the greatest women's division at this point. But prior to that, it was all about TNA. So I think she gets to have a great run against some of those women there in TNA. That's what should happen. And how it plays out for the invasion, I think, is interesting. Do you consider Kalani, now that she's the world champion there, TNA or NXT? Which team does she end up on? How do you not have her representing a team, considering she's the Knockouts champion? And is that a TNA team that she's on, since she holds that world title? So I think I think now is where it gets interesting. in terms of how it affects Invasion, but in terms of what it does for Kalani, I hope this creates a significant reign for her, where again people look past her size, look past her kindness, and really acknowledge her as the woman who's following in the footsteps of Trinity and following in the footsteps of Awesome Kong as a African American knockouts champion in TNA. And I think that needs to be celebrated.
Oh, most definitely. And I think the other thing that we kind of missed being celebrated as well was the main event at Victory Road with Leon Slater and Myron Reed. I believe, definitely not the first, but I think it's been a very long time since we've seen two black males in the main event, especially with the title involved as well, with a title involved as well, the TNA main event on a PLE. So that needs to be mentioned. I might need to do a bit of research to find out the exact thing, but it's been a long time. I think the last time I can remember is Moose and Rich Swann. I don't know if it's that long. I don't know if there's anything in between, but that was one of them. With this whole thing with Kalani, again, it's celebrating the fact that she was the first women's North American champion. She's now won the TNA Knockouts championship as well. It's clear that they want to put accolade upon her as well. Sol Ruku's in a very similar position as well. It's going to be interesting to see just how it all plays out. And we talked about Lash Legend and Jada Parker, both still relevant, but kind of not knowing how we're gonna, where to go with them. They've come close, they've come this far, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's clear that the women's division in NXT is just different sauce. You've got this whole thing as well where you can see the likes of maybe like a BFAB or someone else on the main roster, and when they're not doing so much or when they're not as not seen on TV as much and whatnot, the first thought is, maybe they should go back to NXT. Now you're like, I don't think it would work. It just wouldn't work because that division is so stacked. It's just so, in the place where it is. So to see a Kalani Jordan in the position that she is means a hell of a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see just how it works. The other thing that was interesting was that we did see a bit more of a violent side to her in that match. So it makes it interesting when you said, Gerard, about what side will she pick, or will she have a dilemma of picking a side? That would make interesting TV. I think it would, for sure. I want to change the whole. Go on, Max. She's gonna say.
I was just gonna say that they in my opinion they've rushed obviously this invasion stuff just to compete with AEW on a Tuesday night. This should be a more of a long drawn out story. This should be the regular stuff that we're used to seeing, people lobbying for their position on the teams, people falling out because they're not making the team, this, that, and the other. By the end of tonight's show, the general managers are just picking who's going to be there next week. They're going to have to fight and done. Like, leave AEW alone. Just stop caring about what they're doing. They've stopped caring about WWE somewhat, and they're better for it this entire year. So yeah, something that could have been a really good story, where ultimately rushing, I think, just to put on a big show on Title Tuesday to go against AEW. So that's frustrating, because like you're saying, that there is room for Lash Legend to do more lobbying to lead the NXT team. There is room for Kalani Jordan to have this, what do I do? Am I NXT? Am I TNA? There's room for all of it, but they've rushed it. So Ava's just going to come out tonight and just pick 5 women, 5 guys, and we're going to move on to next week.
Yeah. And again, even on a TNA side, all of that could have happened as well, because obviously you've got the rivalries within TNA within itself. And I'm sure during the matches, and at some point we're going to see some kind of whatever between teammates. But at the same time, this could have been so much, like, you could have built this for so much longer, whetted our appetite for so much longer, and all the rest of it. It does definitely feel very rushed. When I found out it was like next week, but on the CW, I'm like, whoa, wait, huh?
Right.
And I'm like, I thought this was going to be like a Worlds Collide type of scenario where we build it all up and we go somewhere different. And But we are where we are, and it is what it is.
Mhm.
Before we move away and time is gone. Last week we saw the PWI 500 announced and published, and it made for interesting reading. But as always, here we focus on where the Black Stars came within the list. Gerard, I'm gonna send this one over to you. In terms of the list where people turned up, new
Mhm.
names, new faces, same faces, people going up down. What are your general thoughts on the PWI 500 list this year?
Well, once again, the PWI 500 list is, I think, when we start looking at lists in the space of pro wrestling, it's arguably the most respected list just
Yep,
because of the
for sure.
publication that is PWI. This was the
Hmm.
35th presentation of that, which
Well,
that speaks volumes in terms of why it is so well respected. We know that they have their criteria in terms of time frame, which I believe this year's time frame was August to July.
okay.
August of 2024 to July of 2025. They look at win-loss record, impact on television, impact to that promotion, all of those kinds of things. So, thinking about the last year in the space of Black wrestling, it makes some of these names, I think, pretty interesting in where they land. So, kind of topping the list for Black wrestlers is Swerve Strickland, who came in at number 7 this year. Certainly not the highest we've seen for a Black wrestler or the highest
Hmm.
for Swerve Strickland. But looking at the last year, okay. Now, I think the interesting debate here is the second highest ranked Black wrestler, which is the now former NXT champion, Obafemi, who is at number 14. Um, I'll just go through the top 5, and then this is going to speak to a very interesting conversation. Because the third highest ranked Black wrestler at number 19 is Trick Williams, the current TNA world champion, which that makes sense. Then you have to go all the way to number 34 for another sighting, and that would be Moose. And then at number 41 is Ricochet. So what's interesting to me, just looking at this top 5, and I could go a little bit for actually. Yeah,
Do it, do it,
yeah.
do it, do it.
Let's do that. All right. So Ricochet comes in at number 41, which is certainly a high ranking for Ricochet, considering what his last year has looked like. I think that's a
Hmm.
pretty fair rating. JEVON Evans comes in at number 47, which I think is a incredible. We've talked about him during the show. Hasn't won a championship yet, but his performance, his presence has been undeniable.
Hmm.
His opponent at Bound for Glory, Leon Slater, comes in at number 53, which I know made you guys very happy. Looking at what his trajectory has been is well deserved. Another name that I'm sure has made you all very happy, Michael Oku, comes in at number 64. Again, doing all of this without being signed to one of the major promotions is really, really significant. Then you look at number 73, the new NXT champion, Ricky Saints, which makes that all even more interesting. Right under him at number 74 is Shug D. And, you consider Shug D a 650-day title reign as the Pan-African world champion, just losing that title really at the end of that period back in July to Bishop Khan. Following that is Lee Moriarty, the current Ring of Honor Pure Champion, at number 84. And then this is where I think things get fun. Number 95 is Carmelo Hayes. And that marks the first member of the WWE main roster of an African American context to show up here on the PWI 500. It is intriguing to me that you have Oba, Trick, JEVON Evans, Ricky Saints, 4 NXT stars who show up higher in this ranking than a main roster African-American star, which I know there's been a long-term argument about, what's going on with the African-American male wrestler on Raw or SmackDown. This really could chronicle that in the last year, that there has not been one that has held any sort of significance such that they would barely crack the top 100 of the PWI 500. Now, there are other names that are here. Shout out to Mims from the NWA, who is at number 100. Leo Rush is at 103. Myron Reed is at 107. The newly crowned, I believe, Progress World Champion, Man Like Doris, at number 117, which I think is great. Alex Kane at 134. Powerhouse Hobbs at 138. I find this one extremely curious. Jasper Troy, the LFG winner, at 141. That seems incredibly high for someone who would have just entered TV toward the end of the period. Think
and
about it.
I'm sure you have to have a certain amount of matches as well, right?
Right. So perhaps he had some matches over on Level Up or something like that. But would those matches still qualify him to rank this high on the PWI? No knock to you, Jasper Troy. I mean, congratulations. But it's a shocker that you win LFG June, July, and that somehow puts you in the top 150 of all wrestlers for the last year. Very interesting. Particularly above a certain Shelton Benjamin, who comes in at number 149. Now, I imagine we'll probably see Shelton Benjamin and his Hurt Syndicate partner show up more in the tag team PWI list, which I expect them to do very well. AJ Francis at 157, Kevin Knight at 159, Wes Lee at 173. The newly crowned Pan-African World Champion Bishop Khan is at 191. Ron Killings, R-Truth, is at 198. And perhaps, I don't know what's more egregious. Ron Killings at 198, which is like, huh? Or the current Ashe Wrestling Men's Champion, Darius Carter, at 199. Certainly feels like he should have been higher on this list, given all that he's done and the prominence he has brought to the Ashe Wrestling Men's Championship and how big of a deal that has been. To tell me that Jasper Troy is 58 places higher than Darius Carter is crazy to me. Maybe it's just me, though.
Here's a question for you. And it's interesting, especially with the conversation that me and Mex were having before we went on the air. Scorpio Sky is in the list at 479. I mean, it's clearly not a high place, of course. But again, given certain amount of matches and all that kind of thing, I'm not sure how that works. But moving on from that, Gerard, are there any names that are fresh, new to the list, that you want to kind of like put out there, give some congratulations to?
For sure. Shout out to LeBron Cozone, who has been crushing it. For years, he's known for his work at Firestar Pro, an amazing wrestling school there in North Carolina that gave us Jackson Drake, the current Evolve champion, that gave us Javon Evans. And LeBron Cozone has been an incredible wrestler the entire time. This last year, he's done some great work, winning championships in DPW, getting a shot at the Pan-African World Championship. He's up to become number one contender potentially over at Ashe. He'll battle Cedric Alexander for that in October. Just made his debut in Germany. He's a 15-year pro who appears for the very first time on the PWI 500, coming in at number 254. So congratulations to him. Got to give a big shout out to Pretty Boy Smooth, who is at number 283. Also, I'm very excited for Carly Bravo, who I had the privilege of calling his very first match straight out of the Nightmare Factory, recently won the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team championships, along with his infantry partner, the Captain Sean D, and as part of Shane Taylor Promotions. He makes his inaugural presence here at number 309. So shout out to him. Some other new names. Cappuccino Jones is here at number 400. Sydney Akeem is here, which is exciting. The former Reggie at 407. Joe Black, who is the Southern Honor champion, 2-time champion, I think having the best run of his career right now, enters at number 449. I think that should have been much higher. I will say this, when it comes to these lists, one of the biggest challenges with these lists is you're dealing with a group of people who are looking at wrestling across the world. So if there's someone who's particularly good in a particular promotion, and either that promotion doesn't have great visibility, or they as a wrestler haven't traveled to enough promotions, it makes it difficult for them to be noticed and acknowledged as they probably should. I think that's the case for Joe Black, who does incredible work. And I'm just glad he happened to make it onto the list. There are other names on here. Ice Williams at 328. Let's see, AR Fox at 291. Mount Kadeem at 284. So shout out. And Devin Monroe. Shout out to Devin Monroe, who is on here at 229. So all sorts of new names here, which continues to show that Black wrestlers are continuing to make an impact on a large scale. It's just exciting to see all of this happening for what's happening in Black wrestling.
Max, let me get your thoughts on at least this top 5 of the Black wrestlers within the list. If you need to give context as to the whole list in general, do so as well. But what are your thoughts on the position of these top 5 to 10 of the Black wrestlers on the list?
So who was it? Swerve is first. Obafemi second.
Obafemi,
yes.
Trick Williams, Moose, Ricochet. That's top 5. Then we got JEVON Evans, Leon Slater, Michael Oku, Ricky Saints, and then Shug D.
What is exciting about those names is that there's a good mix of the present guys and the future guys. For the future guys to be that high up, like JEVON Evans, someone we're here, upset about his booking and stuff, but he's top 50 in the world. Like,
right.
we understand
when
the
you
year
put
this
it
guy's
like
had. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to kind of, you kind of put things into perspective, sort of thing. I think there's a strong showing from NXT. So the whole argument of black men not getting an opportunity in the WWE, we can definitely see, like we were saying, it's cyclical. It's coming back around.
Yes.
They had their time.
Yes,
they had to breed new
sure.
stars. It's coming back around. On the other side, there's a Carmelo Hayes that's much lower than a lot of these guys that he is above on the main roster. So that's where you become concerned. But even with Carmelo Hayes, you've seen in recent weeks he's come back to prominence. He's been booked on TV a bit more. I would hope, and I'm fingers crossed it for him as a Boston boy. That's towards John Cena's one of his last dates. I hope that Carmelo Hayes can sneak in there and get a bit of a rub. But yeah, it just shows that where it definitely dominating at one level, can we make the transition to the other level? Swerve, obviously being the number one in Black wrestling, it makes sense. He's had a terrific last few years. Unfortunately, he's injured right now. We hope he rests up and comes back stronger. But now there's a Ricochet. There's Moose on TNA, which these guys can go in there and do their bit. I think Ricochet and the Demand are on a great run. I was very happy about the win they picked up against Hurt Syndicate. I want to see that become something for all of those guys. But yeah, I think, like I said, the mix is good. The guys pushing into, I guess, that top 10. You mentioned Leon Slater, Michael Oku, and stuff like that. These guys they're on their way, sort of thing. So like I said at the top of the show, I think the state of the game right now is in a good situation. Trick Williams, again, I talk about having anchors around your foot. They're definitely holding back what could be with Trick Williams. So there's a lot of big talents that, you know, just hoping in the next year and a half they start blossoming. More and more guys hopefully start cracking that top 10. Swerve will be there. Swerve probably won't be there next year just because of the injury and
Right.
fall off. He may not even have enough matches to make the list full stop by the time he comes back. So that's we got to take that into consideration. I know there's often a lot of outrage when these lists get published. Where's Roman Reigns? What has Roman Reigns wrestled matches? Like,
Right.
Come on, let's use our brains. Like,
Right.
So yeah, it'll be great to see if with a main roster status, maybe some good matches and stuff. If Obafemi can crack a top 10, maybe by then Trick Williams is doing some great stuff on the main roster. Trick can crack a top 10 as well, and it won't be easy, but we can hope that these guys get positioned well enough. We see Carmelo Hayes come up the league a bit. Yeah, man, rooting for all of these guys.
You know, you mentioned the NXT guys, and I want to kind of focus just really quickly on Obafemi, Trick Williams. Obafemi coming number 14 overall, Trick Williams number 19 overall. Why do you think, Mex, that Obafemi misses out on the top 10 and Trick Williams kind of, you know, is in the lower part of that top 20?
Yeah, I think I said this in the group. I think it's just literally down to who they have had as competitors in NXT. I think the last time we saw an NXT champion in the top 10 would have been Finn Balor during the pandemic or so. But Finn Balor had names to work with. Finn Balor was won matches with Gargano and Ciampa and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, and he had names. So like, as much as yes, they were acknowledging it was just the NXT title, like Finn Balor didn't finish first, but the match quality he was putting on with these guys was enough to carry him in there, and the names of everyone involved. Obafemi has put on a really, really good matches. Obafemi had 10 defenses in 270 something days as champion. Like that's defending it every month, you know. Basically, he done really well, but it's not to the, as much as we enjoyed it, it's not to the name brand level, let me say, the level of matches the likes of a Finn Balor was having and stuff like that. So I think literally him and Trick have been hindered by their opposition. But we know the men's division right now, there's a bit of a gulf with Obafemi and Trick being at the top, and it's like everyone else that follows beneath them. They've had to even come together a couple of times, which you mentioned earlier, during the year, just to kind of make stories keep going, sort of thing. So hopefully with the array of talent that they have on the main roster, when these two do get there, they could just remain comfortable shoo-ins within that top 10, top 20. I don't see why not. They have been carrying NXT on their backs respectively for the past year plus. So yeah, they should be a shoo-in on the main roster, hopefully.
And I think that's what makes the difference as well. You know, we talked about Trick Williams kind of being held back a little bit, but at the same time, I feel as though he's in the perfect place. You know, they booked him correctly or made the right decisions with him, especially in terms of him, you know, doing his thing in TNA and holding that championship and everything that's going on there and what he's been doing. I think I would rather see that than him being on the main roster as quickly as we probably wanted him or most people expected him to be, and then end up in a similar position to where Carmelo Hayes is right now. And you know, I think that's the difference there. You know, I asked the question as to why they didn't reach that, but at the same time, with them being on NXT, that being the lesser brand, and then at the same time as well, as Gerard mentioned, you know, lesser eyes are on NXT than they are on the main roster in Raw and SmackDown. And most of AEW Dynamite as well, for example. So for them to even be where they are, I think that's a massive statement within itself. I think it says a lot. But yeah, the only little difference is some of the opponents that they had. Go on, Gerard.
Yeah, I would also add to that, in the top 10 are 9 world champions. So that's the other thing that we're looking at, right? So it's not like just random guys. It's 9 out of the 10, and the only one that wasn't a world champion during that time frame was number 10, which was Will Ospreay, right? So
the
everybody
best wrestler in the world.
exactly. So what that means then is if you go past all the world champions from AEW, New Japan, WWE. And now we get to the top, or now we're looking at the second group of 10. Obafemi is number 4 in that group at 14.
Right.
So that's a massive statement in terms of where they view Obafemi, Trick Williams, and the NXT brand. I mean, I have made the argument for years that NXT is no longer developmental. Obviously, when they went to 2.0, they went to intentionally become developmental. But the second they went to the CW, all of that changed. You know, you're not developmental on broadcast television. So it's very clear that NXT has been able to position itself as a viable third brand, such that their guys, their champions, their wrestlers are viewed better in many cases than many others on Raw and SmackDown. I mean, again, Obafemi, number 14 in the whole world. The whole world. Right?
Can't take that away.
You can't. The champion of your developmental brand, Trick Williams, you know, former NXT champion, current TNA world champion, right? Like all of these things. And I believe he's also the highest TNA ranked wrestler. Yeah. So imagine that, right?
And he's not even TNA.
You know? So that, I mean, think about what that means too. If your NXT guys have enough juice to make TNA appear even more viable, then you got to put them that high on there.
That's the whole point.
Have to.
Yeah, of course. Gosh, we could keep going. There were so many other things we could have talked about. We didn't even talk about Jade Cargill's match. Jeez. Maybe next time. Right. Time has gone. Time has gone from us. Guys, you've been watching WrstlXtra on the Black Wrestling YouTube channel with myself, A Dazzle Mix, and Gerard Bonner. Mix, let the people know where else they can find you in all your spaces, please.
WrestleManiac UK on X, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find my exclusive WWE stuff on WWE Gorilla Position. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. That's about it.
Gerard, apart from saying your name, you will appear. Where else can we find you?
You can find me at Bonnerfied on all of the social spaces: Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok. TikTok, X, Twitter, same thing. Facebook, all those places. You can check out my commentary work. Just had a great show last week with the Nightmare Factory for their Student Showcase 19. So that's on the Nightmare Family YouTube page. You can check out my work with Southern Honor on IWTV. We just had our last show in the Action Building. Our next show will be in November at a brand new location. Getting up very soon in a couple of weeks for Ashe's Close to Midnight, which will be the next big event. And speaking of Ashe, there's a big title match happening, a triple threat happening for the 9th anniversary for Battle Club or Fight Club Pro, Battle Club Pro, one of those two. And Battle Club Pro, that's what I thought. So it involves the champion Darius Carter versus Yaya and Rayhan Antaeus. And so the winner of that will face Billy Dixon, of course, at Close to Midnight. We'll crown our first Ashe tag team champions, men's tag team champions there at Close to Midnight. So that's going to be a lot of fun on October 18th. And then more fun things happening, some cool stuff coming with the Bonnerfied Podcast Network as well. So just follow everything at Bonnerfied and you'll stay connected.
Amazing stuff. Of course, you guys know you can see us here every single Tuesday on the Black Wrestling YouTube channel. 6 p.m. UK time. Work it out wherever else you are. If you don't want to do that, you can obviously catch us on demand whenever you want. Shout out to our regular visitors and watchers, Jeffrey Reimer and Cousin Ron, aka The Priest. Guys, thank you for joining us, and we will catch you again next time.